You are now locked in with the Booze Brothers podcast, where craft meets culture and every pour tells a story. If you're rocking with us, show some love, subscribe to the pod, like the episode, and follow us everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Booze Brothers, BRUTHAS. We drop new episodes every Friday, so stay tapped in and don't miss the next round. Let's get into it. Craft ain't cute when bills show up. The Booze Brothers, baby. Let's go. Yo, what's good, people? This is your main man, D Best.
And it's NG.
And you know he in the place to be. And we are the Booze Brothers, baby. Now, I hope y'all got your glasses ready because you know it's another episode and we are here to give you the rum. I don't want to say tea.
We gonna put the rum in the tea and make us a hot toddy.
There you go, baby. There you go, man. Before we get going, you know we can't do anything because we got to have our glasses full. So this goes to now the man, the myth, the legend himself, MG, the MD. And that's not medical doctor, that's master distiller. Man, what's this boozeology in our glass this week?
Barrel-aged gin.
Woo! You know, the gin make me sin and sin.
But it makes me win-win.
All right, man, what we got with this barrel gin, man?
Look, we're keeping it simple today. We are making an old-fashioned with our barrel-aged gin. Something a little different, but oh so familiar. It gives you all of those familiar notes with a twist that comes from the gin and the love that comes from the barrel. So something new, but something familiar.
Well, take it away. Get deep, man. Enlighten us.
Well, barrel aging has been a very integral part of spirits. But for us and for me, I've always tried to barrel age things you wouldn't normally think of barrel aging, just for fun and doing it different ways. And that's kind of how our barrel aged gin came about. When we were working on all of our gin recipes, we made our first couple of batches and we made a little more than I anticipated. And my man Jeff up at Foggy Mountain Spirits in Bourne Falls, Michigan, he had some barrels up there that he wasn't using. I was like, hey, let's throw some of this gin in one of them barrels and see what it do. And we did. And what we got out of it was something very unexpected, but very delicious and wonderful. And it's something that I probably wouldn't have created on purpose, but it was a very happy accident.
Right. And no, there's nothing like a happy accident. Or is it? I'll let you decide. Hey, we're going to leave that right there. So, man, look, my feeling and my take on this, man, if you think craft spirits are cute, man, try paying a license fee. Try paying for a permit. Try paying to make sure you got everything intact and have your insurance. You know, people don't understand the cost that goes into what's called, how people view it, a hobby. And I know you have horror stories because when I first met this man, people, I watched this man demo a 6,700 square feet building himself during COVID. You know, I mean, clearing out asbestos, doing his thing, and then have someone turn around and say, oh, we see you was in your hobby today. He better than me because I probably wouldn't be here on the mic right now. So we're talking about that early journey, man. Like right when we started getting together, man, I knew you had this building, man, and I loved the building. I loved it because of the history that went along with it, man, because it was an old Al Capone building. by one of his lieutenants that they used to run moonshine through the basement to another house across the way out there in Thornton, Illinois. Tell the people about that.
Well, it's a case of that. It's like you said. For me, this is my first failure. I just wanted to make booze. That was my only focus. Getting a distilling license wasn't really about business. For me, I just wanted to be able to do the thing I enjoyed and loved legally and with permission from the government. I really wasn't thinking about a business. I just wanted to be able to make booze because I love making booze and I love sharing it with my friends and with people and all of that. And so we got a building in Thornton, Illinois. And like you said, I was all in. When I wasn't working, I was there. Through COVID, I was there. Every night, I was there. Winter, I was there.
Yeah.
I gutted that entire building. I did everything. I've got all the pictures. It was great. It was gonna make a great desk book.
Of course.
At one point. But because of COVID and not being able to get everything lined up, I wasn't able to meet my commitment to the city and I lost my building. And that broke my heart.
Oh yeah.
I was mentally just distraught about it because I lost my way to bring what I love to people.
Oh yeah.
And that was probably the first big lesson that I had was realizing and learning that this is a business. It was my passion. It was fun, but I couldn't have it as a hobby.
Exactly.
I don't golf, don't go to strip club, making booze. And that was my thing. That's what I'm known for. And people have known me a long time. They know it's what I do.
Right. Because making booze brings the golf course. It brings the strippers. I mean.
Well, I provided for y'all to do all of that stuff. I knew you was gonna go there, but
hey man,
I make the booze for y'all to go do all that fun stuff.
It's the truth. Libation goes well with those extracurricular activities.
Exactly. And the funniest part is, while I was doing all of that, and then we hooked up, and you got to see me go through like the middle of it to the end of it, and until it kind of ended, and then when I was gonna get back in, I started looking at it from a different standpoint. I broke it down to manufacturing, compliance, regulation, paperwork, and focused my effort there. I think when I started, I probably gave away 75% of what I made just because I was happy that I could do it. Everybody who called me to give them booze for anything, it was a charity bonfire.
Right.
You need some booze? Drink some booze.
There you go.
I just wanted to share what I made with as many people as possible. Like I always say, liquid to lips. I needed that external validation of all of my efforts of doing my little tiny batches on the low.
Yeah.
I wanted that validation, and so I just gave stuff away. And I wasn't really valuing it because, again, for me, it was passion and enjoyment to be able to create stuff and do it. But then I had to realize, wow, this isn't just for fun. I've got to do this for real if I want it to be sustainable. If I want to keep doing it, it's got to make money. It's got to be a business.
And that's the thing. We romanticize about things of this, right? I mean, we go into things because we're high off our emotions, right? We see something, we say, hey, I can do that. And so while you're going through these struggles and figuring it out, and then you figure out, hey, I'm pretty good at doing this. I remember when I first started doing apparel, I was like, a good friend of mine, my main man, Jamil, man, what up, Jay? It's like we met doing another project, and I started talking about doing shoes, and this is a guy, a seasoned marketer, and he was like, nah, D, no. You know what it takes to do that. You know what you have to go through to get something like that done. And as I've always said, I'm a competitor, so it doesn't take much to get in my crosshairs to get me like, oh, okay, you telling me I can't do this. That's basically what I heard. So you set out to now for me, go prove me wrong that I can create this thing and now actually do something with it. So something that started out as a hobby and I'm, tinkering around, then you start to see it develop. And then it's like, huh, I got something here. But now, to your point, you have to start looking at the business side of things. So I think even when I got with you in the early going, like I said, I was doing a transition during that time because during COVID, I was doing cannabis. My company was Buddy Love, and I knew the struggles that under the social equity piece we were having. Uh, but that creative process was still the same, but it had to become more than just a quote unquote hobby, just something I'm doing in my spare time. At some point, you have to push all in or not do it at all.
At some point, you got to sell it.
Oh yeah, and that's the truth. Hold on, what is our correct term? We have to come up with the MVP.
Exactly, and that takes us to building brands and developing and doing it as a business. When you first came to me and we first hooked up and started talking about it, and then you started coming to tastings with me and seeing me move in shows and seeing people react and understanding all of that, and you were like, I want to do this. And I gave the homework to do. And then one of the first things was, as soon as you did the homework, I handed you what?
A first MVP, a product that I can go out to go and move, and that viable product to be able to see if I could sell it. Once I knew I was able to sell it, now I was like, now we got to go to work for real because this can't be just something I'm doing out the trunk of the car. You know what I mean? As I love to say, our version of Breaking Bad.
but that was another learning for me, because you weren't the first person I made the offer to do it.
Exactly.
But you were the first one that I think was looking at it as a business from the start. Right. And so seeing you move kind of showed me where I fell off for my own self. And then that inspired me to be like, okay, next time I get back into this and I do it, I'm going to focus on moving the product and all of that. And then even with this year, because if we look at all of the combined time I've been distilling, it's probably been about 30 years I've been doing it. And I told, you guys are the first to know that I'm like retiring from day-to-day master distiller duties, making batches and all of that, because I've got to get out and I've got to be my own brand ambassador. I've got to get out there and speak for D with Copan so that he has me as his maker and his teammate for his brand. So for me, it's like, I love making stuff, but I know that if I don't make the business viable, then I don't get to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So this is where the craft and the hobby and the fun, where the rubber meets the road. Because when you're trying to get in different states and they tell you, oh yeah, it's $10K for the liquor license for the state in some state, and then, oh yeah, the biggest city in the state, yeah, it's $5K for a license to sell in that state. And those numbers start adding up, and it's like, I don't know how much. I mean, I'm still eating ramen noodles, and I'm way past college years, but I'm doing what I love.
Exactly.
And mine are nice. I take a rotisserie chicken, I break it up.
Oh, man, come on, man. You got the onions, and you cutting up bell pepper.
Pre-sliced onions. It's beautiful. I should take pictures of it. But at the end of the day, it's got to be a business for it to be viable if you want to continue to do it.
Exactly, and that's the thing, man. It's basically what you're saying in a nutshell. When you actually start to put that roadmap together on how to move this product now, and that was the thing, knowing you're going to need capital. You have to work out ways if you're going to bring in silent partners, loud partners, partners of any walk or shape or form. You have to understand how they need to move with you inside of that company, right? Because my thing is never to bring on an investor that only thing they can contribute is money. That's not going to help me get this place to where it needs to be. So I love what you said about being out there on the block with me. We're giving a different look, a different feel of how a brand can actually transition and become something more. Because not only is the brand leader there, the actual maker and distiller is there as well. That within itself is energy that's built in to move something forward, as opposed to a person just out there on his lonely corner. You know, please buy my bottle.
Well, hey, I'm gonna
You
go
know?
back to the finance piece. I can say this has been very much a bootstrap effort, and I've been very fortunate to have some friends and family that gave me money to help keep me going when things got tight. Because literally, this has been self-funded and friends and family, and I want to say thank you to all of you for your patience. I promise you, what you gave me will come back to you manyfold. It's just taking longer than we both wanted to take, but we are grinding every day trying to make it happen. But that's the biggest thing
Yeah.
sometimes. But getting out and being that and working every day. Every day I'm thinking about it and I want this to be successful. So I'm doing all of those things and getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and that's the difference, man. I think that's what's allowing us to have the wins that we're getting, because there is somebody that's in the mix and we are boots on the ground every day, you know. So myself, I'm not tied to a job, so I'm able to be out and do things every day. Now this would be totally different if I had to get up and go to the dude's job to make the dude some money, to make sure the dude's family is all right and tight generationally. You know, I didn't want to give the dude no more of my time. You know, I wanted to give me my time, you know, and no matter what it took, I wanted to be the one that's at that head leading the charge. You
And see,
know?
you being able to do that made it easier for me
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I still work. You know, I got my day job, which I love. And that's the crazy. I love what I do. I've been doing the same kind of work a long time, and I've got a great team of people that I work with on my day job. But every day, every PTO day I use is
Yeah.
because of something we got an event and we working on another thing. When I clock out from there, I slide over to the other end of my desk to the other laptop and I clock into the distillery. And a lot of people, you know, I'm very fortunate. I've been in Chicago 12 years now, and I had a core of friends that were already here,
Right.
that are born and raised in Chicago. So I got plugged in immediately. And I love it because I have not gotten anything but love from Chicago since I've been here. The only bad part about that is that people sometimes only see the shiny outside part when we're out doing what we do. Nobody sees me in my scuffed up Timbs,
Ooh,
in
man.
my ripped up cargo
Dude, come
pants,
on, man.
in my hoodies,
Yeah.
doing all of that stuff. No, that's the part that I guess now that I'm not doing that day to day anymore,
Right.
I still want people to know about, because if they want to go down this road, they got to know the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly.
And I can't just show them the shiny pieces and then they not see there's a grind.
Yo, what's good, people? It's your main man, D Best, one half of the Booze Brothers, and you're tapped into the Booze Brothers podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by NG Distillery, craft spirits made for the culture. Salute to them for holding us down. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And that's at Booze Brothers. And that's Brothers, Bruthas. We're coming to you every Friday, so don't miss a drop. Now let's get into it. Yeah, exactly. Now I want to go back and touch on something you said earlier. It's like when people, I did a podcast last week. Shout out to Unplug out there with Element Cigars and all the guys and gals there. It was a question somebody posed as far as a brand entering other markets. And you touched on that when you talk about, man, I got to pay $5,000 here. I got to pay $10,000 there. Now, you know, we are set up in a system that we have to abide by, a 3-tier system to operate. and do things in other states. But the thing I told the young lady was, you really want to start out slow. You know, you don't want to try to grow too fast. You know, you may have people that love you in other states and want you there, and you may have gone and did a tasting there, and people have sampled some things. But realistically, you want to control your backyard, you know, because now we're entering the realm of, like you said, we need to have distribution. You might have to run into a situation when you're running into a control state. You know, there are a line of rules and regulations that come with this, man. Break that down for the people.
Well, it's like you said, it starts with the three-tier system. You have manufacturers, you have distributors, and then you have your retail, restaurant, bars, the customer-facing end. So the reason it's broken up that way is so that every tier pays different taxes. And it's all set up so that the government can get its money.
The dude, if you didn't know who I was talking about earlier.
The dude is the government. The government is going to get its cut. And so the other part of it, we got the 3-tier, which is national.
Mm,
However, every single state has different rules.
that's right.
So it's not just learning your home state. When you want to go big and you want to go hard, you got every state you're interested in, you've got to learn all of their rules. There are law firms that specialize in this and consultants that do all of that. But when you're a small brand, D is right. Our goal, my goal, 2026 is to be known in Chicagoland. That's who I want to get with if I want to get spirits. If I am a small restaurant owner and I want to carry small boutique brands, Black-owned brands, Hispanic-owned brands made locally, I know who I want to call it. That is what I want to be for Illinois. I want to be Chicago, PR. I want to own our state, but I want to own Chicago first. I want people to recognize me and say, hey, we're doing a special event. I know who I can call.
Right.
He can help us curate and create something fabulous on the spirit side.
Right.
And to be known for that.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Now, back to the not so fun part. Every state is different. It costs money to move everywhere. This is a highly regulated and highly licensed industry.
That's right.
And if you want to break it down by money, I don't have a calculator out, but let's just say distributors get between 20 and 30%
That's right.
markup on my product. Retail stores, 20 to 30% markup on my product. So 60% of the price you're paying is going to people other than me.
That's right. That's right. As the distiller.
Exactly.
As the distiller.
maker.
The maker.
60% of what's made on their product is going to the other two tiers. And guess what they don't have? They don't have the cost of goods sold that I have to put the stuff in the bottle. So
The variable expenses, people.
exactly.
Money that is used to create the product.
And that's where you've got to think in terms of a business. Because if I've got to sell my product at 30% of what I want the shelf price to be, that changes the dynamic. Because they've got to eat too, because they have their costs and their expenses, and I can't be everywhere, and they've got to get the product out. But for me, I've got to be mindful, I've got to be smart, and we've got to structure, and this is where we get into structure, processes, and system.
Yeah.
Because in order to scale in this business, you got to know your numbers. You got to know your cost to acquire customers. I got to know how much it costs. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to something you said.
Oh, yeah. Because you jumped in the system because that's the thing. You miss one step. As far as I'm even before what you're saying, you miss one step with the paperwork, they're going to shut you down.
Boy.
And you got to start over from scratch, and you got to eat that cost because you're not getting that money back.
Oh, there's no refundable license fees. You can reapply with a new check.
With a new check, that'll be $10,000.
But the crazy and fun part of it all is once you learn these lessons, it's just being able to repeat them and being able to continue to go on and do what you need to do. It's a lot. It's a lot.
But you were hitting it right, though. It's like passion won't save you when the bills show up. You know what I mean? So systems will. And that's what you were touching on. The systems and how to move forward in the space. Elaborate on that a little bit.
So like now what I said earlier about not being a part of day-to-day production is because I've got the recipes dialed in. I know what the mash bills are. We know what the cuts are. We know the computer numerical controlled still is going to cut at the same cut points all the time. We've got the inputs right. Once we've got all of that right, now I can step away there. Then your sales channels, you got to figure out what distributor am I going to use? How am I going to work with them? What kind of arrangements do I have with them? Then if you're working with retailers, what requirements do that retailer have for me? And a lot of people say, oh, as soon as I start my brand, I want to get into bennies. Guess what? When you get into larger retailers, they have requirements for their brands. You've got to turn your product in a certain cadence. So if I jump out there tomorrow, yes, I have enough product that I could be in all the bennies around Chicago, but guess what? I've also got to do tastings at every bennies in Chicago that I'm at.
Exactly.
And those cost $200, $300 easy.
Because how the people going to know about you if you don't show up where the people are?
If you're just on the shelf, nobody's going to know.
I think that's where a lot of times that people, when they come into this business, they neglect the marketing cost. You know what I mean?
And I was one of those people. I was one of those people.
You forget the marketing cost that goes in to actually moving that product. Yeah.
I believe that if I built it, they would come. I'm like, it's delicious. Why wouldn't they buy it? You know?
Oh, your old Tower of Babel.
Exactly. But it's like, oh yeah, they don't know. You know, I got some people that be like, hey, you make apple pie. I'm like, yeah, I do. But I need 1,000 more people to say it every day.
Exactly, because you're going to get the questions. The first thing you say, once they say, hey, where can I get it? Where is it at Benny's? That's the first thing that flies out of their mouths, man.
And it's that driver that causes a lot of small brands to mess up because we hear it so much. It's like, I gotta get into them. And then when you get in there and you can't make the product turn because you haven't built up your marketing and you don't have any processes to make sure you're letting people know which stores you're at and you lose that placement of the product because you couldn't support it.
That's the thing, you know, and that's where it goes. Once again, I'm going right back to what you say. Systems will allow you to show up differently and move products. So it's like toward the end of the year, my biggest thing was saying we need to be in at least one foot traffic store. And we could build out from there. Why? Because that store will get so many bodies in. And of course, once they start to see a particular product move, now you're able to go around that traction with your marketing. The people to ask that question, hey, what is that you got? Even the register people, they'll be ringing people out. What is this right here? Now that's the ground and pound I love to talk about, because now that word of mouth starts to spread. But at the same time, you still need follow-up marketing to get to the people. And of course, we got social media. You know, that it's there. That's another ticket, but you have to know and put people in place to do it, because that's something else that a lot of times we take for granted, that we think we can do everything, you know.
Oh, I can do everything.
Yeah. You think you can do everything.
Hey, whoa, hey. I can do everything. I did everything. And I failed spectacularly because I did everything.
And look where that got your ass.
and I'm telling you, look, if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. Something like that. And that was the case of it. And it's in my failing, I feel like, was the fact that I have great people around me.
Yeah.
I just never asked for help because I'm Superman, an army of one, baby.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make it, I'll move it, I'll sweep the floor, I'll clean up, I'll bottle it, I'll put in the hand labels.
And then too, we get in our feelings. You know, we become emotional. You can't become emotional. Like if something doesn't happen, all right, you know, I don't need you. No, I can do it myself. You know, I Lord knows how many times I've said that. You know, I don't need you. I got that skill set. I can do it myself. You know, but after a while, next thing you know, you sitting at a table. I can do it myself. You by yourself, and stuff's not getting done. You know, stuff's not getting done. We have to be able to incorporate people in to move the ball and help create longevity to stay alive in a space, with that in mind. So what was the highest ticket of your permits that you had to do as a craft distiller? For those that might be listening and they want to go down, hey, I want to distill, so give them a quick roundabout of what that entails as far as permits and having it set up legally so they can operate.
The funny thing is, to become a distiller federally is free.
Wow.
The licensing fee from the TTB is $0. You can apply to. However, it is a very long and exhausting process requiring a lot of time and energy. And a lot of people hire attorneys to do it. And I've seen quotes $10,000, $20,000 to do it. Because of the nature of what I do, I did it all myself. However, the amount of time, it probably would have made more sense for me to hire somebody to do it. And that's the thing. But sheer pricing, probably about $5,000, the highest license. I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to get a license that would have cost me $10,000 reduced tremendously because of somebody else's support. And that's huge. And that was huge. But that would have been the most expensive one. But $5,000 multiple times is where it is.
Because
the thing.
Because of the changes, because of the unforeseen things that take place. Going from one building, that didn't work out. Then we go to another building, that didn't work out. And there's money that's been spent there. These are not, hey, I'm just going to give you the key and let you come in and work.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Probably at this point, I'm probably over $100K, I think, I've spent in the last 5-6 years to end up where we are now. But they were very expensive lessons, but lessons I needed to learn, I guess. I'm gonna say it that way. Lessons I need to learn in order to graduate to where I am now. I had to remove myself from being everyday, what is it? Not HNIC, but like I was the janitor and everything.
You was everything.
I was everything.
You were the all the above.
And now I just have to be the CEO of this company, president of the company, and be able to I need to execute my vision, but I need some people to do it for me so that I can keep things moving. I know which way the train's supposed to go. I've laid the tracks down by hand, mostly by myself. Every once in a while, somebody come over and I'll let them hammer one or two in just so, all right, you help me now, get out of here.
Right. You're in my way. You're in my way.
You're in my way. Slow me down.
Go sit down, have a drink.
But now it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And that's how you got to think. You got to start. And another point, I really, really, really thought too small when I started. I did.
Explain that. When you say you thought too small,
I only wanted a license. When you're talking about, like, we're at the beginning of the year, so everybody puts out their goals and their vision board and all that. My vision board just said one thing: get legal. That was my only goal, was to become a legal distiller in the United States. And once I got that, I was like, yay! And then I just gave away all my booze because my goal was met. I was like, awesome.
Hey, you say, hey, that was joy to the world moment. That was that gift.
I called my best friend Joel, who mom made the sorrel for me, and he was my first call when I got that letter in the mail from the TTB with my license. And I sat and I fucking cried in my car because my goal was achieved.
I love it.
And now looking back on it, I was like, that wasn't nothing. Because after that is when I spent $100,000 trying to build out the business when I should have been thinking about that all along.
Oh yeah, man. It's we can celebrate those. I always call them minor victories. But it's man, when you look at hindsight, like I said, I've delved into many different businesses, and failed, had some success at some and failed at others. But it's each step that I took, I knew the one thing for me that was really in my way was once again allowing people in, and I had to learn the process of uh, mentorship. Mentorship has been key in my growth up until now. Men and women that have done things 10x more than what I've done, you know, in some of those same fields and some of those same directions. So, in this space, with you being a distiller, did you ever have mentors that you could have looked to possibly guide you during some of these heartaches that you experienced?
I didn't lean on them for that. I honestly can say. And it goes back to the Les Browns of it all. He says, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you end up upon the stars. I literally was just shooting for Friday. I was like, if I can make it to Friday and I get this letter, I'm good.
You're good.
But
yeah.
what I did do though is there was a distillery in Madison, Wisconsin called Too Tall.
Okay.
When I first moved to Chicagoland, I wanted to do this. I went up to Too Tall Distilling because the equipment I wanted to get was specialized equipment. I'm an engineering nerd, so I was like, I want the latest and greatest computer controlled still. The sales rep hooked me up with two gentlemen up in Madison. They closed down since then, but I would drive up there on the weekends and work for free because I wanted to learn. And they were kind of my mentors there. When I first thought about it in Vegas, going to Las Vegas Distillery with George and going over there when I was off work, just to be there while he was setting up to learn what it would take. And him telling me about, leveraging his whole life to make his dream happen. And then when I first was having some trouble and getting frustrated, then I got connected with Jeff and the team at Foggy Mountain Spirits in Michigan because they had the same equipment. And I was going up there, and that's 6 hours away. And I get off work Friday, I drive up there, or Saturday morning, I'm getting up 4 a.m. to be there at 10, even though they started work at 6 or 7. But I made sure that I got, and all of that I did just to get the process right of making spirits, to scaling up from my first 5-gallon still to 25-gallon still to 200-gallon still to 5. That is what I learned there. But what I didn't get, the game that I should have been worried about getting, was the sales end. But I literally, in my heart, I assumed that it's so good, they gotta buy it. But I wasn't thinking about that game because even in my regular work, I'm always the person that helps other people get their stuff to the point. So I didn't have a visionary mindset that way initially. I was more focused about making sure the product was as good as possible. And that was where I failed in man. So like now, I'm looking for some billionaire friends here in Chicagoland to put me up on the next level of the game.
Right.
Because now as I'm doing this right, I really want to do all of that structured stuff the right way to make it legacy and all of that. I'm like, hey, I'm working really hard, but I want to be able to do that. And so I need to find me a mentor. So, hey, out there, mentors,
out there,
you ain't got to be in the spirits industry. I just need to have a couple more commas than I do.
Yeah, he needs a little guidance.
Exactly. Let's help me put together the team to get, when I get to the next level, all the I's are dotted and the T's is crossed.
Oh yeah, man. Because like I said, it has definitely done wonders for me to be able to bounce ideas off people that have created and been a part of building companies with an extremely long list of O's, and so that's a good feeling to be able to get that kind of tutelage. But at the same time, I know, you have to be humble enough to be able to accept it, and for a long time, I didn't want people telling me anything. I knew what I was doing. I can make this thing, but I was relying on that one skill set that I knew I had, creativity, So I had to get beyond that and to be able to now look across the playing field to say, hey, I can look at this differently now and get this thing done, and so, like I said, man, we touched a lot on the manufacturing and the compliances and the things about how this is not a hobby, because it's too expensive. Because I remember back when we first got together, and you was like, "Look, I got my I got my day job, my girlfriend, and my hobby." I was like, "Hey, well, two of them gonna have to give." You know what I'm saying? In order for this thing to grow and become something else. But I can say this now that others are involved and you're not alone in this flight. You see the change and how it's growing and moving in another direction, you know? And so I think that's the grow up part that I've seen you as in your maturation in the time we've been together. We've been together 4 years now. And ladies and gentlemen, when you say ox, there's a picture of this guy. Stubborn as a mule, strong as an ox. This was a picture of this guy, but he's come a long way, man. He's come a long way. But you only learn through trial and error though, bro.
Oh yeah. And I'll say, I if I'm nothing else, I'm gonna take responsibility. And my thing has always been nobody will ever outwork me. And I stand by that. But I had to learn that sometimes you got to pick your head up and look up and not just always have your head down grinding. And sometimes when you look up, you get to see things differently and you get to learn stuff differently. And that is definitely me. I'll say now, learning to move different, even within the stuff that I really love to do, and just coming at it from a different angle to make sure I get to do this as long as I want,
Exactly.
how I want.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it's time for when we get here. It's time for the decode of what we were talking about today. Look, we keep it simple. We keep it one liner. Treat it like a business or stay a fan. Which will you be? You treat it like a business, it will treat you right. And you will see things grow and become everything you ever could have possibly imagined them more. You continue to treat it as a fan, that's just what you'll be on the sideline cheering and using words like, man, we came up today. We played a good game today. Man, I don't understand, man, why we got this guy on our team. We need to fire the coach and all that. You're a fan. You're making no money. You're a sideliner. There's nothing to gain from being a fan but entertainment when your team loses and you're happy one day and you're sad the next. That's the same thing when you're building something, when you're growing something. You have to treat it with respect. You know what I mean? And in order for it to blossom like this flower, I hear Bruce Lee. You want it to flow like water, and bloom like a flower. This is how your mind grows.
I don't even know what to say after that. As usual, I'm gonna go the whole opposite way. Let's see who I want to quote. I'm gonna go to my man Dan Martell.
Come on, Dan Martell, give it to me.
And he always says you've got to become the person to match the success you want.
Come on, man.
And I have always thought of myself as the worker, the grinder, it's gonna get done. I am Mr. Get Her Done. And that is what I'm doing. But in order to build something beyond me, I needed more than my hands to do the work. And so I had to shift to become the CEO mindset and to start doing all the CEO things, not just the implementer things, not just the guy who gets it done. You got to be the guy that sets it up so other people can do it. And I think working with you was probably the first time when I said, no, don't come over here. I want you to go over there and I'm going to support you, but I want you to figure out your vision and all of that. And we're going to see. And watching you go through and figure out your lane and how you want to present your product helped me see like, okay, I was able to see this through him because I told him to go over there and do it for himself, even though I think we would have been awesome at working our companies linked that way.
Exactly. But it was the right move, man. I totally agreed with that philosophy, out the gate.
And that was me saying, this is not a hobby. This is a business. And this is going to be the first brand that we launch that's actually going to be a brand. It's not going to be a simple, I did a lot of stuff for people that was vanity projects and small things and all of that. And some of those people I really think have the ability for it to become a brand, but it still would require them to go all in on it. For them to be like, I'm going to be down on the field.
Right.
My problem is I always wanted to be a player coach.
Yeah.
And now I realize that now I just need to be a coach. In fact, I need to go up to the office and sit my butt up there and build a team that can handle day-to-day operations.
Exactly. And that all comes with time and really observing the playing field, right? And understanding what it is that you want out of this thing, It's like having that team meeting, like you said. I don't look at Copan as a brand, I look at us as a media company that so happens to sell liquor, because how do we reach our base? It's going to be through media. It's going to be through contact. That's where my wheelhouse truly is. Being with you, I know the back end process, right? Now, if I had to go in there and just create something off scratch, man, please, you going to choke. And we're going to go back to the other episode. Floor polish, only thing I know about ethylene glycol is when I used to do it at the antifreeze joint, making antifreeze.
And we definitely don't want to make that.
Exactly. So, like I said, man, today's show, at the end of it all, really what we're saying is, man, if you come into this space, and especially as Black Spirit, you come in this space, man, do your research, do your homework, build out your infrastructure, make sure everything is in a system. And I promise you, you don't have to take over the world, but you'll find success when you take it seriously enough to want that success. You got to set yourself up for that. So, man, in closing, so, next week's episode, man, we talking what you love. It's about that gin game.
I'm bringing gin back.
Oh, man. Oh, you're going to make gin sexy?
I'm bringing it back, man.
Oh,
I'm bringing it back.
I'm looking forward to it, man, because if I don't know nothing else about the big fella, he does love his gin. So, man, as a recap, you know where to find us on all your streaming platforms, and definitely check us out on social media and Facebook, the TikTok, and Instagram. We are there, and of course, if you want to get yourself some Copan vodka, which means to share with friends, you go to www.copan, that's spelled COPAJN, vodka.com, and to get the big fella and you want the whole array of the small crafts, go to www.ng-distillery.com, and you can't lose going and mixing with the booze brothers. So, man, this is that time, because, at the end of the day, we got to give the people what they want.
We got to give them what they need.
Because at the end of the day, we keep it nice. Till next time, people, we are the Booze Brothers, baby. See you next Friday, people. Peace.